Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where I am quite sad because I woke up about 15 minutes ago and remembered I need to cover a Manchester United 3-1 defeat at home to Brighton. At home to Brighton. Now, you got my immediate reaction last night in a live stream. If you missed the stream, turn notifications on the channel so you don't miss any future videos. But today we're going to break it down from a tactical point of view because I think United were outplayed here. I think Ten Hag started it well. I quite liked the setup. I thought it was working quite nicely. In and out of possession for that first 20 minutes. I thought United were the better team. So we're going to cover why United looked good there. But then we're going to cover the tweak which De Zerbi made. We're going to cover the first goal in particular because it highlights the problems. So let's get into this from a tactical point of view. And we'll start off with why I thought United actually started this game quite well. And like I've said already, 20-25 minutes were the better team. Certainly up to that first goal. But goals change games, and that's what we saw here. So, Manchester United started off by playing the ball out from the back quite nicely. Now, Brighton actually kind of committed to pressing a little bit higher than I was expecting. We saw Danny Welbeck and Lallana both pushing quite high onto the two centre-backs. We saw De Hood would often come a little bit higher on Casemiro as well. Brighton were looking to be reasonably aggressive, but United dealt with this really, really comfortably, and that was great to see. And it came because Casemiro was dropping into these deeper positions like this, basically making sure that Onana was involved in the build-up, because Onana is arguably United's best passer at this point, especially a short passer. So United were making sure that they had this 4 versus 3, and they'd done a pretty good job. Onana could take his time on the ball, which is going to kind of draw Welbeck out, almost doing to Brighton what Brighton do to everyone else. Then the ball can go into Casemiro, he can play it wide to Lisandro Martinez. United are out the press and able to step forward. So, overall your thoughts on this match will be quite negative. But remember that this was actually pretty good. This was good play out from the back from United. The one thing I will say on Onana, I was a bit disappointed, one, with his shot stopping on the third goal. But actually his long passing. This is something he's really good at. His long passing is incredible. He can play balls over the top. He's so good at it. In this game, I thought his long pass selection was a little bit odd. We were seeing him go long more towards Marcus Rashford rather than Rasmus Højlund, which doesn't make much sense because Rasmus is much better as a target man, someone to hit. He's much more physical. So I thought that was a little bit odd. But in general, United's initial build-up phase was pretty good. As a result, United were able to move the ball forward and try and build possession. From where, again, I thought United looked okay. Now, the shape that they were using was quite interesting if we just kind of drag all these players forward. The shape which United were using, of course, throughout the game was this 4-4-4... No, that's way too many players. This 4-4-2 diamond shape. There we go. We got there eventually. And in possession, at times you could tell that United were in a 4-4-2 diamond because there was a clear flaw to it. However, at the same time, United still attacked pretty well. So what we saw was United very often building in a back three, but the personnel in the back three was changing a lot. There was one scenario where Lindelof was the middle centre-back, and then we had Eriksen one side of him, Bruno Fernandes the other side of him. That's how much this was changing. At times it was Dalot beside one of them, at times it's Reguilon, but largely it was a 3-2 shape with some form of rotation going on somewhere. Like I said, it was often more like this, I guess, with Lindelof as the right centre-back, Lisandro Martinez as the middle one, then Christian Eriksen here. What we then saw was Casemiro playing as one of the double pivot, as you'd expect, and then Bruno Fernandes and Scott McTominay kind of taking it in turns. Who was here more often? I don't know, maybe just about Bruno Fernandes, to be fair. Scott McTominay is then pushing a little bit further forward. Rashford's drifting to more of a left inside forward position. Rasmus Højlund's up front, and Dalot's pretty isolated by himself down the right hand side. But to be fair, United actually played quite well in these situations, because Rashford could come into these positions here if needed. Adingra is kind of getting dragged by Reguilon, so there's room for Christian Eriksen on the ball. United were able to create overloads. We can see here they're 3v1ing Danny Welbeck, which means ball progression is quite easy in the first phase. We can see in the middle of the pitch, we've got Casemiro, Fernandes, McTominay, Rashford. Dalot could move inside as well. Lindelof could step forward. So again, United overloaded these parts of the pitch. I thought that was quite good. The slight problem with the diamond, though, was that down the right-hand side in particular, there was nothing really. Dalot tried to occasionally carry the ball forward and actually played pretty well, I thought, Diogo Dalot. But he was just too isolated to really do too much. Instead, the threat was coming down the left-hand side, where I want to talk about Marcus Rashford because I thought he was absolutely incredible for 90% of what he has to do. If you go watch the highlights, particularly watch the highlights on the Brighton YouTube channel, it is all Marcus Rashford. He's the only one who has a highlight for United. Now, he was for me, without doubt, the biggest threat on the football pitch. He was nutmegging players, he had Van Heck on toast. This was something we spoke about in our tactical preview, that Veltman will be caught high and you can get into these positions and really hurt these players. And Rashford was doing that. He was absolutely tearing Brighton to shreds, but 90% good. Because in the final third, not even in the final third, when he's at the byline, when he's here, make the right decision. At times he is shooting, he's taking shots from angles which just aren't optimal, rather than laying the ball back for someone like Rasmus Højlund, or there's one where Christian Eriksen arrives late. He has to get his head up in that final decision. It's like once he's beat 3 players, he gets tunnel vision towards goal and he's just got to shoot. And that is hurting this team. So in possession, we're focusing on in possession here on Marcus Rashford. I thought he was brilliant for 90%, maybe even 95%. But that last action has to be better if he wants to be a top player. Because top players make that right decision in the last moment. Marcus Rashford isn't doing that right now. But again, it's weird to judge the performance because he was so good for so much of the pitch, but that last bit let him down in possession. He was also supported in these areas in his attacking efforts by Reguilon as well, who I think most people will agree had a pretty good debut. Going forward, he was really good. He was overlapping. He was combining well with Rashford. He was showing a good intensity, getting into the final third. So early on, things were alright for United. And in terms of in possession, we saw this throughout the match. And genuinely, I think United were pretty good. A millimetre away from scoring. Maybe they did score, I'm not too sure. Rashford was causing problems. McTominay and Casemiro were a bit disappointing. McTominay just was nowhere to be seen. And Casemiro, again, overturning the ball like it's his hobby, like it's his job to do that. He was pathetic. He should be dropped as soon as possible. But in general, United were pretty good on the ball. The problems came from a defensive point of view. So let's talk about that, because that is where United lost this game. Not with their problems in possession, it was out of possession that this game was lost. So time for the out of possession stuff, where for me, Erik ten Hag got it wrong. Now, I said in my stream last night, and it's a point I wanted to keep making, that you've got to kind of bear with him a little bit because this squad is so thin at the moment because of injuries, because of players unavailable. In midfield alone, you've got Kobe Mainu, Amrabat, Mason Mount, all missing. There's right wingers galore missing at the football club. So bear with Ten Hag a little bit. However, tactically he did get it wrong. And De Zerbi really adapted well and showed his quality as a manager and as a tactician. So, again, we'll talk about the first 20 minutes where United actually got it all right and we're actually playing pretty well. So Brighton are going to try and play the ball out from the back. Rashford's going to start a little bit wider. Højlund's going to do the same. As the ball comes into the centre-backs, they're going to press like this, which means Dunk can't get on the turn and play to Lamptey. McTominay is going to be nice and high aggressive on De Hood here, so the ball can't go in there. If Pascal Gross is dropping, Bruno Fernandes is going to be there. Rashford's doing something similar from the other side. Brighton can't really move the ball forward. If they can move the ball forward, it's forced out to the fullbacks, but because they are in quite a deep position, United have time to filter over like this and be quite aggressive. If the same happens on the other side like this, because the fullback is quite deep, United can kind of just trot their way over and be quite aggressive. From here, even if Danny Welbeck was dropping deep to offer the option, Lisandro Martinez was hard, aggressive, and in on the tackle, and it meant that United started their press very well in the first 20 minutes. However, this is where I have an issue with the two managers, because De Zerbi makes a tweak. He notices that for 20 minutes it's not quite working, so he makes a tactical tweak. This tactical tweak changes the game, it wins Brighton the football match. Ten Hag, this is where I'm a bit frustrated, he's now seen that it's not working for 70 minutes and doesn't change enough. I mean, we can talk about the last 15 minutes, but I don't think it's worth it. We saw Bruno Fernandes at centre-back. At that point, it was just hope for the best. But that 20th minute to the 70th minute, roughly, or even to the 60th minute, Brighton completely outplayed United, and it's because they made this change. They pushed the fullbacks further forward, but importantly, kept the wingers wide. That's going to be crucial to this. So they're much higher like this, and they dropped Lallana deeper and Danny Welbeck deeper. This is what changes the game. So the question is, why does it change the game? The reason it changes the game is because as the game goes on, United's pressing intensity gets worse. Marcus Rashford is not great at pressing. He's lazy, his body language is poor, but also his technique when pressing isn't very good. He doesn't cut passing lanes very well. Marcus Rashford out of possession is a serious problem which needs to be addressed. I'm going to try and figure out some sort of tactic which allows you to address it. At the moment, United won't win football matches with Marcus Rashford out of possession because he's not doing a good enough job. He's letting himself down a little bit out of possession because he just doesn't track, he doesn't press, he doesn't really do anything. Combine that with the fact that we've got Christian Eriksen and Casemiro, who aren't young, who can't cover ground, but particularly can't cover ground going back towards their own goal. And we'll see that for the first goal in just a second. But importantly, what's the tactical importance of this? Basically, the United midfielders find themselves getting pinned. So Danny Welbeck's dropped a little bit deeper into these areas, and Pascal Gross has pushed a little bit further forward. So De Hood is now a solo pivot. This means that McTominay is tying up Lallana. That's basically his man now. Eriksen is tying up Pascal Gross. That's basically his man now. Because Welbeck has dropped deeper, so deep that he's away from the centre-backs, that it's almost Casemiro's job at this point to pick him up. And the United centre-backs become a little bit redundant. Could United have been more aggressive in their press, potentially, and pushed one of these forward, but they didn't do it. It creates this problem. Jason Steele in goal can now go wide to the fullbacks. Or Van Heck can get the ball. If Rashford is slow to get over, he can play the ball to Veltman. Now, Veltman has time on the ball, and so does Lamptey on the other side. Why do they have time? Because the United midfielders are being pinned into these positions here. So, particularly down this side, because this is where it all happened. Because Eriksen isn't great from a defensive point of view. He's not defensively intense. Neither is Marcus Rashford, and neither is Reguilon. So this is an area where Brighton clearly targeted United's lack of intensity from a defensive point of view. So now Eriksen has got himself in a position here where when Pascal Gross gets the ball, he has to go towards him, because you can't just let him carry the ball forward. But as soon as he goes towards him, Gross is going to play the ball to Veltman. Now, Reguilon has a problem, because as this is happening, Danny Welbeck's going to make a run forward, but Adingra is going to do the same as well. So now Reguilon has a decision to make. Do I go aggressive and leave the space in behind, or do I back off and let Veltman carry the ball forward? You kind of end up doing nothing between the two, and this isn't actually a massive criticism of Reguilon. Could he done a bit better defensively? Possibly. But it's more of a system problem, because he's now being 2v1'd, and this is the problem with the 4-4-2 diamond. Because United players don't have any width, there's no width in this formation for United, if the opposition are able to move the ball forward out wide, you get overloaded, you get outnumbered in these wide areas with a fullback and a winger up against a fullback. And it created real problems for Reguilon. He didn't really know how to deal with this. Add to this the fact that Brighton are always really good at pushing men forward. They're always going to attack the box. Eriksen's always going to struggle to track Pascal Gross in here because he can't do it. Casemiro is going to struggle to track Lallana because, again, he's like a bus reversing through mud, basically, Casemiro at the moment. Brighton are going to move the ball down this side of the pitch. And this is now where you've got real problems. Lisandro Martinez now has to come out and cover and adjust because Reguilon's been caught out, which means Lindelof has to come across, which means Dalot has to come across. United are now defending with a suboptimal back three. Lisandro Martinez comes all the way out here. Then you're going to see the runners in here who just get too much space because Casemiro, McTominay are not doing a good enough job really of getting back and covering them. Christian Eriksen perhaps the same. The ball's going to come into these sorts of areas, and this is pretty much how all three goals are scored. The first down the right-hand side, the other two down the left-hand side. Granted, Onana should have done better on the third, but this is a tactical problem where Brighton are now exploiting the lack of width in the United side. They're going kind of round the diamond and then coming back in behind it. So if we've got our diamond here, right, the benefit of the diamond is it's difficult to play through the middle. So what Brighton done is they went round the diamond like this and then came back in behind it in this space here. And again, United just don't track this. They don't negatively transition intensely enough. Which means basically they don't run back towards their own goal quick enough or with enough intensity. And we can see this for the first goal. We're going to check this out using Want Video Analyzer Pro. It's a great video analysis software. If you want to get into analysis, you have to use this. It's perfect because it allows us to draw it out like this. Here we have the United 4-4-2 diamond. We can see that diamond in the middle of the park. And instantly we can see the problems. What I want to do quickly is mark Christian Eriksen here. Now what we can see with Eriksen is we've got these red dotted lines coming off of him. What does that mean? Well, we've got Pascal Gross in his deeper position here. One of the players Eriksen was picking up. But also Veltman on the ball out wide. The fullback now being pushed much further forward. These are both Eriksen's man to pick up. Eriksen is a player which, in terms of intensity, struggles with 1v1s. But 1 versus 2, he doesn't have a chance, the poor fella. But what we can also see is that Reguilon can't really go out and press because he's scared of this running behind. Problems of the 4-4-2 diamond. As it plays on, we're going to see that Veltman now looks to play the ball forward. Reguilon's been caught essentially in no man's land because, you know, he doesn't really know what to do here. Again, it's not massively on him because he's, like Eriksen, been put in a 1 versus 2 situation, which is so difficult for footballers to do. Adingra is going to make the run in behind right, which is going to take Lisandro Martinez. Welbeck's going to come inside. If we just kind of follow Casemiro for the rest of this attack, you'll see that he just doesn't ever get close. Where is the intensity here? This is his area. He can see that one of his centre-backs has just been dragged out into this position, and another of his centre-backs is now going to be isolated, 1 versus 1. Casemiro has to break into a sprint at some point to get back into this area, but his awareness, his tracking of players so far this season is so poor. And as it plays on, we're going to see it again. He's now finally realised. He's now finally clocked on that, oh, hang on, that's my area which I'm meant to be defending. But it's too late. Danny Welbeck's past him. Danny Welbeck plays the ball out wide to Adingra. And again, just follow Casemiro here. Follow Scott McTominay, although not so much McTominay to be fair. Follow Casemiro and Danny Welbeck. Keep an eye on those two. We can see the ball goes wide. United are now defending with a back three because everyone's been dragged about. Lisandro Martinez is out wide trying to defend, which again is not optimal. Eriksen, that's not Eriksen, mate. Lindelof in the middle. Not a great box defender, let's be honest. Dalot at the back post is in a pretty good position. But watch McTominay and Casemiro and Danny Welbeck in between them as this cross comes into the box. Casemiro has to be aware of Danny Welbeck on the edge here. Because if we go back just one kind of clip, it's his man. It is his man. What happens? Well, as the ball goes wide and the ball comes into the box, we can see Dalot is tied up with Mitoma. Lindelof is tied up on Lallana, I believe that is, and Lisandro Martinez is dragged out wide. Casemiro and Scott McTominay, this is your man in particular, but Casemiro, it's your man. Ball comes in. How is he in that much space? How Danny Welbeck walks into the box unmarked and puts the ball into the back of the net. Now, granted, there's a nice dummy in there, which does Lindelof, but that's not important. What's important here is that it was basically 4 versus 3. Brighton had Adingra, Lallana, Welbeck, and Mitoma, the front 4, up against the Manchester United back 3. Because Casemiro doesn't do anywhere near a good enough job of getting close to Danny Welbeck, who puts it into the back of an empty net. Like I said, we kind of saw similar for the second and third goal as well. It was real concern in this game of football, but yeah, that's what happened basically. United started well for 20 minutes. De Zerbi adapted, Ten Hag didn't. United lost 3-1. Simple as, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. How disappointing was this? How worrying is this? What is the solution moving forward? Let me know what you think. But apart from that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.